What's going on, Ambitious Vet? Welcome to episode number 42 of the Ambitious Vet Show with 25-year retired Lieutenant Colonel, Green Beret Special Forces, and founder of LTO Enterprises, Otis McGregor. Welcome to the Ambitious Vet. My name is Chris Hoffman, Marine combat veteran turned passion-driven entrepreneur. We are here to dive into the trenches with today's top-performing military veterans that were once warrior-made, but are now passion-driven. Now, as they share their stories, their journeys, and just what it took to get to where they are, we just hope that this unlocks your golden grenades to break through and live that more fulfilling, meaningful, and top-performing civilian life. Okay, Ambitious Vet, so if you're in here listening in here, you're probably a veteran with a big vision, but are finding that life just isn't as easy as you thought it would be. One thing that Otis McGregor dives in inside this interview is how you've always got to follow the process no matter what. Just because you go and you win the lottery doesn't mean that you're going to be able to keep that money, right? You have to become something more to attract that kind of monetization back into your life. Well, it's the same thing. When you get out of the uniform, guys, you have to begin to become more, right? Otis McGregor, inside this interview, he retired after 25 years as a lieutenant colonel, and he is the most humble, most beginner-minded person I have ever interviewed in 42 episodes inside of this Ambitious Vet. So why aren't you? That's what you got to be asking yourself, is why not you? If someone that is a business development expert, someone that's served well over 25 years, Lieutenant Colonel, Special Forces guy, why aren't you being at a beginner mind? I know I had to hit the breaking point and realized I need to start asking for help as well, guys. But really what I'm challenging you to do here, right now, if you're listening to this, no matter where you're at, is I challenge you to go to the Ambitious Vet Tribe on Facebook, where we have over 545 ambitious vets that are testing their limits every day out of the uniform, and they're leveraging each other to create more, bigger opportunity daily. So guys, if you're not already there and you're listening to this, get over to the Ambitious Vet Tribe right now. I promise you it'll be worth your time. All right, so before we go ahead and dive right into the Otis McGregor interview, guys, I just want to go ahead and give a big shout out to today's sponsor, Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/ambitiousvet and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title free and start listening right now, Ambitious Vets. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/ambitiousvet and go and begin narrowing your time frame to get to that next mission right now. All right, Ambitious Vet, so it's time to go ahead and introduce today's guest. Today's guest is Otis McGregor. He's a Special Forces Army retired. Otis retired from the U.S. Army in 2009 as a Special Forces Green Beret Lieutenant Colonel following 25 years of service. Since retirement, Otis has been the business development director and manager for several companies ranging in size from very small to very large. He started his own company in 2009, LTO Enterprises, LLC, as a consulting firm for government business development. In 2017, Otis pivoted LTO Enterprises to performance coaching for business leaders and athletes. Otis is also a certified project trainer and director. He is now CEO and head coach of LTO Enterprises. Guys, biggest thing I want you guys to listen for inside this episode is, one, his wisdom. His wisdom will narrow your time frame probably for about 10 years. I literally took a page of notes when I was live interviewing him, and even coming back and listening to it before I went ahead and released it to you, is I took another page of notes. Guys, and he really dives into a really big thing that I see a lot of veterans deal with when they are first getting out of the uniform, and even prolonging, and once you grow in a company or start your own business, the power of loyalty, and how when we're in the uniform, you know, we are loyal to the regimen, we're loyal to the mission, but at what cost are we willing to conflict our value of loyalty to the mission out of the uniform for a mission that we may not believe in? Well, I'll let Otis answer that question, guys. Let's go ahead and dive into the trenches. Lieutenant Colonel retired and founder of LTO Enterprises, Otis McGregor. Let's go get it. Otis, you there, brother?
I am. Hey, Chris. Thanks for that great introduction. It's great to be here, and yeah, I'm really honored that you've asked me to join in and be part of the tribe too.
Come on, man. Well, we need wisdom. We need wisdom from a 25-year-old lieutenant colonel, man. That's kind of mastered and uncracked the code, man. So we appreciate your wisdom. So, brother, what I want you to do is go ahead and fill the gaps of introduction, man, and kind of let us into your personal life a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So just a little bit about me. I grew up in Texas. I was in the Texas Army Guard while I was in college because I wanted to see what being a soldier was like. Then I got commissioned as an engineer. Went to Alaska and learned how to survive in that environment. Then went to Special Forces and spent the rest of my career in the 10 Special Forces group and in and about doing things with 10 Special Forces group. And I retired almost 10 years ago here in a couple of months, which is hard to believe that it'll have been a decade, because I can remember when some of my good friends hit that point and it seemed like they were so old, but I'm not, So
never.
It'll be 10 years this summer that I retired. And when I retired, I took, well, first off, I didn't have all these sources that guys do now, which is awesome. And that's why I give back to them. I just took the first job I could get, and I bounced around a lot. I think I worked for 6, 7 different companies in that time span of my first 7 years, and they were all government contracting. I did a lot of business development. It was a easy transition for me, but it wasn't what I needed. And at the same time, like you mentioned, I started coaching rugby. And a couple of years ago, I was working for a small business that a friend of mine owned in Fort Worth, but I was working here out of my house. I was a chief strategy officer. I had carte blanche. I traveled when I wanted to. I went to conferences when I wanted to. I did all those sort of things. Plus, even when I went to the company headquarters, it was in my hometown, Fort Worth. So I was going back home. I had it made, but I hated it. It just sucked.
Yeah.
Wow. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And one summer, that summer, a couple of years ago, 2.5 years ago now, I was sitting here in my office feeling sorry for myself. And I started scratching my head about what it was I enjoyed. And what came to mind was coaching boys rugby. And I'd been doing it at that point, 5 years, maybe 6 years. And I realized that every day, no matter how crappy my day was from that job or whatever happened, when I stepped on the field with those young boys, those young men, it all went away and I had fun for that next 90 minutes. And what I started thinking about was, wow, what was it? The boys? Was it the game? Which both I loved equally. But what I realized, it was the act of coaching, because I started to think back to how I led when I was in the Army. It was the act of coaching. And I started to do some research, tapped into my network, found at my second and third level of my network that I had guys that were business coaches. Sat down with them, learned what business coaching is, found a curriculum that I could go through, and took off and started running. And that's where I'm at now. It's a exciting thing to do, because the decision, when I made that decision to become a coach, I also made the decision to give back to the community that gave me everything. That's why I'm so, you listed off several of the organizations I'm involved with that help veterans. And that's one of the things that really is exciting for me, because not only am I coaching and helping people find their success and achieve their success, I'm also doing it for veterans. And that really satisfies me. And that fills my cup back up where it wasn't getting full before.
Yeah. No, I just acknowledge you for the self-awareness, man, that you had in those moments, man. Because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go into careers and endure them because of the stability, right? So for you to be the wise soul that you are and like be able to sit back and be like, hey, man, like how am I feeling right now about this? And kind of assess and sit back, gain some perspective and figure out where you can best be utilized. I think there's a lot of wisdom and golden grenades that a lot of ambitious vets could take away from that.
And it only took me 7 years. So yeah.
I know it's funny because a lot of people we think that everything happens like 3 months, 6 months, a year out of the uniform because we get out like I was a special forces guy or I was a Marine or anything like that, and it is a process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I can't remember who I was working with just a month or so ago, but we were talking about transition. And somebody had told him, and it may have been, I think it may have been he had gone to a retreat with the Station Foundation. They're kind of a partner with the Foundation.
Right.
And somebody was talking to him about transition. And transition isn't that time period where I take my uniform off and I put a suit on. Transition is our whole life. We go through transition. We change all the time. So we're always in this state of transition. And it's not I'm just transitioning from the military in my transition leave or my terminal leave, whatever the right phrase is. We're transitioning. So it's okay to change. It's okay to try something, then figure out that no, that didn't work, and go try something else.
Yeah.
We're always in that state of transition. We're always getting better, smarter, and improving ourselves. And that's what that transition, when you start to think about it that way, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom and gold in that. And for all you guys that are watching us live right here, we're going to be answering questions. If you guys got any questions, we're going to save that to the last 5 minutes of the show. So we got Adrian Phillips from Savvy Vets. We got Brady Pizzola, who runs a huge nonprofit out here for outdoors. Just bringing like outdoors therapy. He calls it campfire therapy to veterans out here in San Diego. Guy has a humongous heart, former Marine. Hoorah. We got Richard Kaufman, the comeback coach, live with us. So, guys, if you guys got any questions, drop it inside the comments. We'll make sure we get those answered before we go off air. So, yeah, man, there's a lot of wisdom inside of what you just said, brother. I mean, I think a lot of us vets, I know, including myself, I had 5 careers when I first got out of the uniform. And it was all the way from nightclub security, which is generic for any Marine that gets out of the uniform. It's like nightclub security to, I think I did strip club security for 3 months until I was just like, wow, I can't continue to wake up till like 11 or 12 in the morning. I was like, this isn't the life I want. I think I got into sales, and that's what kind of had me start clicking. I'm like, wow, I like sales. I like communicating, influencing people. So Otis, man, what was that moment, man, where you were just like, this is where I'm at? I mean, you kind of shared it before. Like, it was the moment where you were kind of sitting back and you've had a couple career transitions already at that point. You sat back and you realized you like rugby coaches and you like coaching, and you found some curriculum to kind of dive into. But how did you identify your strengths and your skill sets? And how do you start learning how to monetize those? Because I think a lot of veterans, what they struggle with is identifying their strengths and skill sets and actually, monetizing. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the monetizing thing is part of the education as we grow, because you're in the service, that check and you're getting 3 hots in a cot and a paycheck at the end of the month, right? No matter what, you're getting that. I mean, you have to screw up pretty bad not to get it. So when we transition into the civilian world, into the business world, you have to start to realize that what you own is your intellectual property. Those things that you know how to do and how to create things, you can monetize that. And it just depends on what you're doing. So what I did when I first left the Army, I went into business development. And guess what? Business development, you're writing proposals. And you know what writing proposals is a lot like? Writing an operations order or a contingency plan. It's the same thing. I get a solicitation that says we need these kind of skills or these kind of services. And guess what? I use mission analysis and I break it out. And I use those skills that the Army drilled into my head for 25 years to write a proposal, which is just
Yeah.
an operations plan. So that was one way, and that was why I went into that field for so long. And then the other part of that is going back to the intellectual property is understanding that what you know and how you do things is your intellectual property, and that's a service you can provide. You know, I like to think of it this way. If I owned a convenience store, if I owned a 7-Eleven, and Chris, you came into my 7-Eleven every day and you said, "Hey, Otis," and you grabbed a soda and you grabbed a 12-pack of beer and you walked out. Well, you know, after time, that'd be like, you know, "Hey, Chris, you know, you might want to do something to help me keep in business, because now you're taking away my business." And, you know, that's an oversimplification, but there's a lot to be said for that. Mm-hmm. You know, what we know and who we are is what we can use to go forward. So that's the skill set. You know, and there's another piece that works somewhat, and I'm not a big fan of this one. It's the Rolodex. And you know, it's the who do you know who. And there's a lot of government contracting companies, and there's nothing wrong with this, don't get me wrong. A lot of government contracting companies that will hire veterans for who they know in an organization so that that company can try to win that contract. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as you are consciously aware that that's what you're being hired for, because that means that your usefulness is about the length of that contract, the win of that contract. So 1 year, 2 years, you better figure out some other way of making yourself useful to that company very quickly, other than the who you know.
No, that's a good perspective. That's what I love, because it's one to have a skill set of being able to connect the dots for people and narrow time frames for connections and closing contracts and stuff like that. But it's another on like, how can you incubate skill sets and figure out how to scale that and all that. So that's awesome. That's great stuff. So we've talked about a lot of good stuff, man. One thing that I do inside this show is I like to get people really authentic, man. I know you're a big fan of authenticity. I've been watching your video series. And Ambitious Vets, if you guys are not following Otis McGregor's video series, he does a video in his backyard in Colorado. It's been a lot of snow on the ground lately, but he does a video talking about simple principles that are so easy to do, but a lot of us don't. That it's always the small fundamental principles that allow us to get out there and create real traction, real momentum. See, what was it? Jim Rohn quote that said that, those small things are easy to do are also easy not to. Don't be the one that's lazy. Right. So he's sharing a lot of great wisdom, and he's a big authentic, authenticity, transparent, honesty guy, just like I am and a lot of us inside the tribe. So I want to ask you, man, I mean, what was the biggest failure whenever you got out of the uniform? What did you learn from it?
Biggest failure? Probably biggest failure was trusting that the loyalty that I gave to a company, a business owner, and how I gave all that loyalty and did that extra work and time would keep me in that organization, and it doesn't. I learned a couple of hard lessons that, there is no such thing as, hey, when a guy lays you off and it's a friend of yours and he lays you off, and this is the real thing that happened to me. I get laid off and I'm treated like I'm going to steal from the company. And my phone is wiped, my account is shut off, and I don't even know that I'm being laid off. And I get a letter that says, sign this, you get a severance, or you can go to court and do that. And that was a shock. And then the reply back was, hey, nothing personal. This was just a business decision. Well, yeah, it is personal. It is personal. And because you know what? You laid me off and now I don't have that paycheck. And now I'm in stress and I'm in crisis. And guess what? My wife's going to say, what are we going to do? And I'm going to get that. I'm going to have to live with that. So that was probably the biggest thing for me to learn was, when we're in the service, we're loyal to each other. We're loyal to our organization. We're loyal to our units. We're loyal to the regiment. I mean, even now, we're still loyal to the regiment. But in the business world, it doesn't work that way. And there's ways that I've talked with the guy, and there's ways that could have been done differently. But when you come to that conclusion that there is no separation, there's two things that I really talk with vets and my clients about. There's no separation between business and personal. There's no such thing. That's movies, right? And then there's also no such thing as a work-life balance. It's all integrated. It's what we do. We do our work. We're living our life. It's all integrated. So if you can't figure out how to have those things enjoyable, then neither one of them is going to work.
Yeah, no, there's a lot inside of that. And Ambitious Vets, anybody that's listening to this live, any questions that you have, Otis, we're going to answer those in the last 5 minutes of the show. Also, if you're getting golden grenades, I want thumbs up. I want hearts right now. I want to see love for Otis McGregor. So, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom to that, brother. I mean, one in particular thing is like how loyalty, the number one value that is established while we're serving inside the uniform, can also be an energy sucker if we're inside of an organization that is not aligned with the rest of who we are as a character and value base and stuff like that. So the question is when do you realize not to be loyal to the mission inside of an organization as a veteran that is totally committed to mission completion and, feeling like they're letting people down? Cause I was one of those veterans in the last corporation I was in, and I've talked to a lot of veterans like that. So, I mean, what would be some words of wisdom for that? Like, when do you cut off the loyalty, right? And maybe when the mission's not totally complete.
Well, so I don't think it's cutting off the loyalty. I think it's an understanding of where that relationship is. Okay? Right. So our work ethic that we come to a company with is work hard, complete the mission, work as a team, work for the higher purpose of winning, right? So when you understand that and you move forward with that as an organization, but also with the self-awareness and understanding that organization, whether it's stockholders or that CEO who owns the business, can just say, hey, sorry, we're not going to go that way anymore, and I don't have any need for your service. Here, best of luck to you. So you have to be aware of that, but you can't use that. You can't have that limit your performance, because then I think as veterans we become conflicted. And that's not really what I'm saying. What I mean by the loyalty is you have to be aware that could happen. That could happen to any one of us, no matter what organization or business you're in. It could end. So that loyalty you just have to be cautious of how you use it, I guess is probably what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. What I'm hearing is really, it just has to be aligned to your next mission. Like, what is your end result out of the uniform, and properly assessing, what missions align in the organization and stuff like that. And it is a tough transition for veterans who value loyalty and, mission completion and stuff like that, and being able to leave an organization before they've felt like they've impacted it or stuff like that. So good stuff. So before we dive into kind of like what you're doing with LTO Enterprises and LLC and kind of stuff like that, one key thing I picked up on your 1-minute videos that you've been doing. And again, Ambitious Vets, if you're not watching those, go and watch Otis McGregor's 1-minute videos every single day in his backyard. I promise you, it's gonna be the best spent time in your 1 minute. I promise. Is we have a lot of the same, kind of like message around trust the process. And, a lot of yours is patient, long-term game, marathon, and stuff like that. And I wanted to hear from your words live here inside the tribe. What does trust the process mean to Otis McGregor?
That's a great one, and I love that one because it's so hard, and we want to put it in the microwave and hit deep, deep, and get it right. We want 15 seconds, get that thing right back out. That's what we want, but that's not real life. What it takes is, how did you get, so for like me, I spent 25 years, started as a private, did the whole thing, left as a lieutenant colonel. That's the process. Now I can't expect myself, because now I'm a lieutenant colonel, hands on my hips. Look how smart and now I should just be in charge of everything in your company, sir. And it doesn't work that way, because you know what? I wouldn't take that guy off the street and put him in my position. He would have to walk the same path that I did, the same process. So when we create our, and kind of going back to the process and that I'm talking about in the video also, is when you create that objective, your goals, it takes a process to get there. You're not gonna, if you're creating a goal and you achieve it like that, then you're not creating a goal that you really ought to be going after.
Right.
I mean, if I say I want $1 million, and I can walk into the living room and hit a couple of buttons and got it, then well, why didn't I ask for 10 million, right? What's my process? So you have to take the time. You have to realize that you can't, something that you want, it's that whole thing that thing you want, you have to earn and work for, and then it's so much more valuable. I think, I work with a lot of veteran entrepreneurs also, and sometimes they get rolled into that they think they're going to be the next Apple, the next Tesla, or whatever, because everybody thinks being a startup is cool and sexy. It would be a million. No, dude, it ain't. It's hard work, and it takes time and a process, and you have to keep going down that road. You were just telling me earlier about the process that you're going through with this 13 weeks of I just drew a blank on what it is. Your accelerate.
Yeah. The 12-week sprint. Yep.
Yeah, sprint. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got stuck in the startup mode. And that's process, right? I mean, it is a process. You have to trust. So when we create that goals, we create our vision, our goals, and our objectives. Then we creates our path, our plan to get there, and that's our process. We have to go down that path to get there and earn it.
Yeah. I love, you got to earn it, right? I mean, because isn't there like crazy stats as far as people going out there and winning the lottery and then losing it like within 48 months of winning it? Because it's a process of becoming, wouldn't you say? Like it's a process of like experiences, failures, learned lessons, skill set development, all that kind of stuff that attracts the money that comes. And I think a lot of people are afraid to take that next step and pivot along the way. And it sounds like that's kind of what you're kind of hitting the nail down on.
Yeah. Well, and you made me think of something else. How about all these young men that go into the NFL and they become instant millionaires, and after 3 years of playing in the NFL, they're flat broke. I mean, there was no process. Look how many of those young men that are. We all think it's like the startup world, right? We all think that they're going to be Peyton Manning, these guys that play, or Tom Brady that play for 15, 20 years, and they've got all these gazillions of dollars. And these young men get a nice big fat check. They go spend money, and 3 years later, they're done, and they have nothing. And so that same thing we were talking about, with the lottery, you get all they don't have the money because they don't know what to do with it.
100%, brother. They lost like their platform, right? So like they lost it. So, brother, I wanted to just real quickly, before we sum this show up, I want to kind of ask, like, what is LTO Enterprises? How did it come about? Like, why did you start this whole mission with enabling people's success, man?
So I started LTO Enterprises 9 years ago as in the business development consulting world. And then 2 years ago, when I made that choice to pivot and become a coach. That's what I did. So what I've done is I've kind of shaped it into I solve problems for business leaders. So whether it's a creating a team that works cohesively together and can get that job done, developing the next leaders for your organization, employee retention. How do I keep my good employees in my team? How do I win new business? How do I get into the government? Because I still do the government contracting stuff. So how do I get into the government contracting space? And how do I win that? Because everybody thinks, well, and quite frankly, the government does always pay their bills. I mean, as much as we complain about it, the government gives you a check at the end of the day, right? You can partner up with all kinds of other businesses, and sometimes that check doesn't come through. The government always does. There's some incentive to work for the government in that sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So you came to solve your problem solver. So you're in businesses identifying problems that need to be solved and you make it, because I think perspective is everything inside of a business. And coming from someone that's been grinding for like a year and a half to close to 2 years now towards this movement and scaling vet training coaching, sometimes when you're in the day to day, you can't necessarily see the holes and the problems that accumulate, and you get caught up in putting out fires. So yeah, it's good to have perspective come in, and you've had years of experiences in consulting businesses, business development, and all that kind of stuff, haven't you?
Oh yeah, you can tell by the gray in my mustache and the gray.
That's wisdom.
Yeah, that's a lot of wisdom right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I've had a lot of great opportunities. Even I wouldn't even talk about all the awesome opportunities I had when I was in the Army, but even in the business world, as much problems as I had in figuring out what it was I enjoyed. I had great people around me that helped me and educated me and taught me little things like, hey, that the MDMP, the military decision-making process, you can use that in the civilian world. I taught a graduate level class years ago for Fairleigh Dickinson University, and it was called Planning and Program Development. And you know what I taught? I taught military decision-making process translated into civilian speak. It is I don't know of any other way to analyze problem sets and come up with solutions that comes even close to the MDMP. And what I teach a lot of vets that are right at that transition point is you've got all the knowledge, you just got to learn to translate it. It may take a little bit longer to translate it and get it to work, but you know what? You have so much knowledge and experience from your time in the service, and it applies to so many things if you learn to translate it. That's the key. That's a critical step that some people struggle with.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's why 45% of us start businesses, because we don't even want to deal with the challenges of trying to, acclimate. But I totally got it. And like, it is a real challenge. And like, it is being able to like, how do I not speak so direct and offend people? That was one of my biggest issues, man. So I totally got it. And I appreciate it of what you're doing for the veteran community, how many veterans you've mentored, and all the companies that you've gone in and turned around, just being an example of what an ambitious vet does and get out there and solve big problems. So what we do before we sum it up always is we ask the guests, I mean, what are 3 golden grenades that you would bring in right now to blow up an ambitious vet that's right now looking to make an impact in life? What would be 3 golden grenades?
You have the knowledge, confidence, and ability to do whatever you want. That's number 1. Number 2 is if you go and you do what you think you want and it ain't, it's okay to change it. Nothing wrong with that. It's a lesson learned. You're moving down that path of life. So if it doesn't work and it's not what you thought it was, change it. And the third thing is you're never alone. And we lost a great Special Forces soldier just yesterday who took his own life. And man, it hurts. It's ripping out hearts here in the regiment, the Special Forces regiment. But you're never alone, and don't ever go off and forget where you came from. Find those veteran organizations that work for you, whether it's the VFW or Special Forces Association, the Marine Corps Association, whatever it is. Find a group of veterans and have them around you, and have them as your team, your network. You may not work with them, go to church with them, whatever it is, but have that network of veterans, because we've been through it together, and we know what it's like, and we can tell and see things amongst each other. We know that secret unspoken word and language, right? So don't ever be alone. And then one more thing that I'll add to that, and a retired sergeant major friend of mine, I was pointing to his house, it's right up there. he said this, and I think it's so awesome. There's a lot of times guys will put on their Facebook or something like that, hey, I'm here. Okay, well, that's great, but you know what? We're all badasses. We're not going to ask for help.
Yeah.
So what that means to me is we've got to be proactive. We've got to make that phone call. We've got to call up John. We got to call up Chris. Hey man, how's it going? And we're checking in with each other, right?
Yep.
And if you haven't heard from John or Bob, guess you probably ought to give them a call. All right. So be proactive in staying in that network and keeping an eye on each other. You're not alone. There's never a time of the day or the weeks or whatever that you will be alone. So touch into and stay with that veteran network.
Yeah, that's awesome, brother. I mean, no wonder why you're a business development guy, man. It sounds like you're excellent at building and maintaining strategic relationships, man. So that is awesome. So love it. So,
Thanks.
Otis, man, where can people go to find you, man? Where can people go to find you, follow you, get to know more about what you're doing, my brother?
So my website is www.lto-enterprises.com. That's the LTO website. I also am on Instagram, which I'm still having trouble saying it. It's at LTO_Enterprises. And that's where I've been between there and Facebook, been putting those videos. And, if those videos spark a question or a thought, hit me up. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help veterans get better at what they want to do, be who they want to be.
Yeah, you can't put that any simpler or more impactful, I don't think, man. So, Otis, man, before we go ahead and let you go, man, and guys, Ambitious Vets, I'll put all his links in the comments below. So be looking for those inside the comments. But Otis, before I let you go, man, I just want to acknowledge you for who you are, man, for serving our country for 25 years, traveling the world, leading our special forces, man. And in spite of some of the most dangerous, places that we could probably not even imagine. And man, more importantly, like what you've been doing as an example for veterans to follow out of the uniform. I mean, it'd be easy 25 years of service just to be like, I've done my job. But you're a prime example of what an ambitious vet does, gets out and still strives to set a clear standard, and bridge the gap between the civilian world and allow us to be able to work alongside and get missions done out of the uniform. So guys, Otis, man, I just want to acknowledge you for who you are for the community, and thanks for joining the Ambitious Vet tonight.
Thank you, Chris. This has been great. I really am excited to see where Ambitious Vet goes as you develop this program and be part of it, man. I really appreciate that opportunity. And thanks for allowing me to throw out some golden grenades, like you call them, for the guys out there. And I'll say it again, man, you're never alone. Don't ever think you're alone. We're all here and we're all in this together, man. So we'll work together to figure it out.
That's awesome. Hey, right beside you, right? Always. Well, there you have it, Ambitious Vet. Episode number 42 of the Ambitious Vet with Otis McGregor. As always, I'm going to go ahead and share my golden grenade that I took away from this. I always say hold the vision and trust the process. If you follow me on Facebook or anything like that. But as one of you ambitious vets called me out inside the tribe recently is, sometimes our everyday mantras are the thing that we need to be working on the most. And what I got from this interview is a deeper perspective around trusting the process and how there's a process to get good at anything. And I want you guys to think about areas of life right now in your life that may not be working the way you want them to be working. Maybe you feel stuck. Maybe you were like I was back at the end of 2013 where I was working 3 jobs. One was a network marketing company, felt like a job, was in sales, had a GI Bill, right, that I was going to school on. And I thought I was hustling, but I was stuck. And my satisfaction of life was extremely low. I had no margin. My girlfriend couldn't stand me because I was so angry because I never had free time to enjoy the money I was making, right? I don't know where you're at in your life. But guys, you guys got to figure out what your mission is, what your next mission is, and lay out the process. There's a process to becoming anything. Proof is in the pudding, right? So think about it. As we said in the interview, there's people that win millions of dollars in the lottery every single year. 1, there's a lot of tax money that comes out of it. 2, an average person that wins the lottery loses it within 2 years. Think about that. It takes a process of becoming something more than what you are to get to where you want to go. And how you create fulfillment in your life. Take it from someone that has failed in 5 careers. Take it from someone that has interviewed hundreds of ambitious vets here on this podcast, live inside the Ambitious Vet Tribe and on here. That everyone says that it's all a process, and that's where you get your fulfillment. That's where you get your happiness, is the daily challenges of developing yourself into who you need to become to create the results that you want to get. So guys, with that, again, today's show is brought to you by Audible. They're offering you guys a free audiobook, also with a 30-day free trial membership with that. Just go to audibletrial.com/ambitiousvet and download your title today, right now. And that, guys, will narrow your time gap and execute your next mission in your life. Again, go to audibletrial.com/ambitiousvet and start for free right now. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Feedback is what allows anything to improve in life. We want to improve in the trenches right beside you. So meet us in the middle, and we want to get better with you. Okay, lastly, we already know that you guys are warrior-made, but to become passion-driven, guys, utilize just one golden grenade in your life right now that you kind of just saw inside this interview, and implement it this next week, then that next week, then a month from now, and I promise you, before you know it, you will be living that meaningful life you desire. Until next week, guys, let's go get it.